The Denver Broncos are having a blast this offseason, and for the first time, they have some really exciting news. After enduring 31 long weekends of pure adrenaline last season, fans are desperate for something to look forward to, and the latest reports suggest the Broncos are gearing up for a major defensive upgrade. I'll give you all the details in a moment, but first make sure you hit the like button if you think Sean Payton should continue to lead the Broncos in 2025. In my opinion, Sean Payton has done a good job and should stay. If possible, write it like this: stay Sean Payton. Now let's get to the point. The Denver Broncos are set to sign one of the most dynamic safeties in the league, a player who has proven to be a game changer when healthy. This move could be the key to solidifying a defense that was already one of the best in the NFL last season. We're talking about none other than Talanoa Hufanga, the standout safety for the San Francisco 49ers. If the Broncos are able to secure his services, it would be a huge win for the franchise. Hufanga is a player who can do it all. He racks up tackles, forces turnovers, and has a nose for the end zone. His impact was undeniable in 2022 when he recorded nearly 100 tackles, 2 sacks, 4 interceptions, and 2 forced fumbles. He was an absolute force, someone opposing offenses had to account for on every snap. Unfortunately, a torn ACL in 2023 sidelined him, but reports indicate he is on his way back to his form. Even after his injury, he has continued to show flashes of his elite ability. The Broncos have been missing a true difference maker in the secondary, someone who can block tight ends and stop plays before they develop. Just look at what happened when Denver faced the Raiders. Brock Bowers completely torched them. That kind of vulnerability needs to be addressed, and Hufanga is the perfect solution. His ability to read plays, jump routes, and make bone-crushing tackles in the backfield would immediately elevate Denver's defense to another level. Beyond his on-field abilities, the financial aspect of this move makes sense. The 49ers have already paid big money to several key players. Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, and Brock Purdy will all command significant chunks of the salary cap. That means they simply don't have the flexibility to keep everyone. Hufanga is a casualty of those financial constraints, and Denver is in a prime position to swoop in. Spotrac projects that his market value will be around $12 million per year, which is a bargain for a player of his caliber. Given that the Broncos have a top 10 amount of cap space available, they could structure a deal that fits both short-term and long-term plans. More importantly, signing Hufanga allows the Broncos to use their first-round draft pick in other areas of need. Sitting at number 20 overall, Denver has the opportunity to upgrade at tight end or running back instead of reaching for a safety in the draft. This is how good teams operate. They maximize free agency to create flexibility in the draft. With Hufanga in the fold, the Broncos could target a high-impact offensive weapon, further balancing out the roster. But that's not the only big news for the Broncos. Another major development is unfolding at the quarterback position. It looks like Zack Wilson is on his way out, and while some fans might see that as a loss, it could actually be a blessing in disguise. Head coach Sean Payton has been vocal about his belief in Wilson's potential, saying that his job is to make Wilson millions of dollars. If another team is willing to pay him big money in free agency, Denver stands to benefit. Here's why. The NFL's compensatory pick formula rewards teams that lose more talent in free agency than they sign. If Wilson lands a sizable contract elsewhere, the Broncos could receive a third-round compensatory pick in return. That's an extra draft asset that general manager George Payton would love to have. Payton has built a reputation for making the most of his draft selections, and an additional pick in the third round could be another crucial building block for the team. It's also worth noting that despite Wilson's likely departure, the chemistry in the Broncos quarterback room was strong this past season. Even in the offseason, the quarterbacks and their families have been seen vacationing together, highlighting the close bond within the group. While Wilson moving on may change the dynamic, it's clear that this locker room has a solid foundation, which is critical for long-term success. Another major move is happening on special teams, and this one could be a game changer. The Broncos are bringing in Darren Rizzi, one of the best special teams coordinators in football. Rizzi has been on the verge of landing head coaching jobs in the past, and his track record speaks for itself. He consistently fields top 10 special teams units, and now he'll have a chance to work with playmakers like Marvin Mims and kicker Will Lutz. The importance of special teams is often overlooked, but it can be the difference between winning and losing close games. Rizzi's expertise could help turn special teams into a legitimate strength for the Broncos rather than a liability. If you look at teams that consistently compete at a high level, they tend to have strong special teams play. This is a move that could pay dividends in ways that don't always show up on the stat sheet. But perhaps the most intriguing story coming out of the Pro Bowl festivities involves Patrick Surtain too. The star cornerback made headlines when he expressed interest in playing both ways, lining up at wide receiver in addition to his usual role on defense. It's a bold idea, but not unprecedented. unprecedented. Hall of Famers like Deion Sanders and Champ Bailey have done it before, and Certain certainly has the athleticism to make it work. Could Certain be the secret weapon that Sean Payton has been looking for? The idea of using him in specific packages on offense is fascinating. He understands the nuances of playing cornerback at an elite level, which means he also knows what gives defensive backs trouble. If he can translate that knowledge to the offensive side of the ball, he could be a dangerous weapon in certain situations. Of course, this could just be a fun offseason storyline rather than a serious possibility, but it's something to think about. What do you think, Broncos fans? Should Certain get a few snaps at receiver, or should he stay focused on shutting down opposing wideouts? And speaking of future stars, there was a fun moment at the Pro Bowl when Peyton Manning's son, Marshall Manning, put on a show. The young quarterback was dropping absolute dimes, and it didn't take long for fans to start dreaming about another Manning in the NFL. It's way too early to say anything definitive, but let's just say that if Marshall gets his dad's height and football IQ, the league better watch out. So, Broncos country, there's a lot to unpack here. From the potential addition of Talanoa Hufanga to the departure of Zack Wilson, the arrival of Darren Rizzi, and even the possibility of Patrick Certain playing both ways, this offseason is already shaping up to be an interesting one. What do you think about these moves? Is Hufanga the missing piece for the defense? Should Certain get a shot at receiver? And are you buying into the hype around Marshall Manning? Let me know in the comments, and as always, let's ride! One of the biggest takeaways from everything happening right now is that the Broncos are moving with clear intent. This isn't a team that's simply treading water and hoping for improvement. The moves being discussed, whether it's targeting Talanoa Hufanga, reshaping the quarterback room, or upgrading the special teams unit, show that Denver is looking to be aggressive in building a roster that can compete at the highest level. Let's dive a little deeper into the impact of Hufanga, because this potential signing cannot be overstated. Over the past few years, Denver has struggled to find a true playmaking safety who can both cover elite tight ends and make game-changing plays in the backfield. We've seen moments of solid play, but nothing close to the consistency or impact that Hufanga brings when he's at full strength. His ability to recognize plays before they develop and react instinctively is exactly what this defense needs to take the next step. What makes this move even more exciting is the flexibility it gives Denver's defense as a whole. With a player like Hufanga roaming the secondary, it allows other defenders to be more aggressive. Linebackers can play downhill knowing they have a reliable safety behind them. Cornerbacks can take more risks, confident that Hufanga will provide over-the-top support. And most importantly, opposing quarterbacks will have to think twice before attacking the middle of the field. This could be the missing piece that allows the Broncos defense to dominate in the way we've seen glimpses of over the past 2 seasons. We already know that Denver had one of the best defenses in the NFL last year. Despite some early struggles, they turned into a lockdown unit that frustrated even the league's best offenses. Adding Hufanga into that mix could turn this group into a true nightmare for opposing teams. But now it's time for Broncos country to weigh in. Do you think Talanoa Hufanga is the missing piece on defense? Is Zack Wilson's departure actually a blessing in disguise? How do you feel about Patrick Certain potentially getting some snaps on offense? And what are your thoughts on the long-term plan at quarterback? Drop your opinions in the comments. Let's get the conversation going. And as always, Broncos country, let's ride!